Submission will give you peace. That's what people miss. Submission will give you peace.
You know, we don't have to be as strong as we think we are, as we think we do.
Undeniable success. That's when you have undeniable peace, bro. I did all this work for nothing, I thought. If I would have moved to Florida 4 months later, I wouldn't have met this guy at the gym.
The pursuit of being known is actually the pursuit of making yourself unhappy. We're live. Brad, you have a word that I've noticed you bounce around a lot. Talk to me about the word truth. We've had truth warriors, we've had seeking truth. What does truth mean to you?
It means that it's the end of the road for the conversation. It means that once you get to the truth, there are no more detours. There is no other paths to go. It means that you have found the foundation of whatever the truth is you are trying to find. We still, unfortunately, live in a world of my truth and your truth, right? Where truth is subjective and truth is, I think that is something that we should all be grounded in. And we know in our hearts, Rob, man, when we're saying something that isn't true. You know what I mean? We know it, whether we pay attention to that feeling, or for people like us, the Holy Spirit, we know that it's not legit. We know it's not true. I think people should listen to that voice more because it's going to guide you to truth.
You know, we've all had different journeys towards finding truth. Talk
Mm.
to me about your journey to finding truth. We speak every couple of weeks on your podcast, and we unravel more truth. But I also watch you have your light bulb moments,
Mm.
like the oh my gosh, that suddenly
Is
like
it that obvious?
yeah,
Is it that obvious, bro?
it is, it is.
I try to calm it down. It doesn't work.
That's it. That's it. So what's your journey to truth been like?
Man, what a tough question to start it out, bro. Maybe the light bulb will go off here in a second, but man, my journey to truth has been it's been interesting. I think God gives us places, people in our lives that that kind of help steer us towards truth. You know what I mean? I am so freaking blessed, Rob, like to have people in my life that like you and the other guys that I've known for many years. You know what, Rob? I'm going to shut up for a second because while I am blessed to have all of these people, to have so many people I can call friends, my journey to the truth has actually been the podcast that I do. And that sounds strange. Even when I say it, it sounds strange because I didn't want to start the show. I had no interest. I didn't want to do it. Our buddy Bobby that you work with now, he gave me a prophetic word years ago when we were having our mentorship calls, and I was trying to seek truth even then. But he gave me this word, and I said, come on, man, you're full of it, you know. And he said, hey, bro, look, I'm just giving you the download I got. You know what I mean? You do with it as you will. It is what it is. I said, okay, well, I'm gonna put it right on the shelf back there that you see, and I'm good to go. I don't need that. I don't want it. I don't like attention. You know what I mean? I don't like that kind of stuff. I don't want to be the center of attention in any form or fashion. So a couple years later, moved to Florida, and it's it was undeniable, if you will, how God gave me this random word out of the blue. I don't even remember where I was. I was in the house somewhere. And he just said, start the podcast. He didn't say a podcast. He said, start the podcast. In other words, I'm reminding you again, son,
Hmm.
of what your friend told you years ago. Start the podcast. So what did I do, Rob? What do you think I did?
If anything like me, you ignored it.
Yes, that's what I did. That's exactly
Fingers
what
in
I
the
did.
ears. La 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 la
Yes.
la.
Yeah, la, 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 la. That's exactly what I did, brother. I said, no. I told the Lord God Almighty, I said, no. So he says, not then. The day went on and everything else. I don't remember if it was the next day or a couple of days afterwards, but then he said, start the podcast. He said it again. You know how it is when the Holy Spirit speaks to you, and many times you can't understand that it's words, you can't make them out, but you understand what's being said to you, right? You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I get the one worders all the time. So when I got three words, I was really surprised. It felt special. And then I ignored it like an idiot. But Rob, I've never felt this in my life, man. The Lord said, "All right, son, I'm going to show you." And he smashed it in my head day in and day out and day in and day out. It was like a nag that would not leave my mind until I submitted and said yes. Bro, it was 3 weeks. 3 weeks daily, numerous times a day, nagging
Mhm.
me, start the podcast, start the podcast, start. And after a time or two, my thick skull says, okay, maybe this is, I'm sure this is not me nagging myself in my own mind to do this. And it all stopped when I finally said yes. So I said yes, started doing my research, kind of got the show started, etc., and just found any guest that I could find and through referrals and networks and whatever. And circling back to truth, I understand now why God wanted me to start the show. And I do sincerely hope that so far it has reached people's hearts. I hope and think that it is going to be reaching more hearts as the further we go along. But I look back on it, man, and he knew a lot better than I that that's kind of the vehicle I needed to get on the road to truth. Because I look back on my journey with this show, man, and I have learned so much, dude. So, dude, when I realized that having a podcast is a free education, that's what it is. It's a free education, man, of knowledge and wisdom and all kinds of stuff. And the guests that I've had and everything, it's like, man, I see why he wanted me to do that. He wanted me to start the show because that was a way that he knew of better than I did, because I didn't want it, right? Um, that I would find him easier, faster, more often, more guidance, more counsel, more wisdom, all the things that I've gained from doing the show. And so it's a long-winded answer, but God uses all kinds of things to help you get the truth. And the truth is, God uses all kinds of things to help you get to Him. He
Mhm.
is the truth, and He's the only truth.
Tell me, you can't say me or Rob in the answer to this, but who's, of all the guests you've interviewed, who's the one that sticks in your head? They said, maybe it's just a few words, or maybe they introduced you something and it was the right hook to the jaw that you weren't expecting. Like,
Mm.
who was, I know you've had a lot of them, but who was the one and what did they say roughly?
Uh, there's a gentleman named Callum recently. It was not that long ago, actually. A gentleman named Callum Gracie. He's in Australia of all places, and he runs a media social SEO agency. And what gave me that moment was when he said nothing at all. And I'll explain. We're recording, and what started off as a little bit about him, and then he started asking me some questions about me, so I gave him a little bit about me, and then I kind of like, well, hey, let's shift anyway, the conversation shifted back to him, and we didn't talk about anything business the rest of the show. Because what God showed me in that interview was that he's seeking again. And there were a few moments in that conversation where I asked him a very simple question and he had no answer. He had no answer. And you can tell that the wheels were turning so hard. And I felt in the moment not to say anything else and to just let it ride. And in those moments, man, to answer your question, it was, oh my gosh, I cannot believe, I can't believe, bro, that the Lord is using me in this moment, me, of all people, to reach him. And he didn't say a thing. It was powerful, bro.
It is a gift, isn't it? The gift of language, the gift of the ability to ask one question or make one simple observation that can fundamentally re-steer somebody's life in a better or different way.
Yeah, 100%. It is a gift, yes, but it is also an honor.
Mm.
I sat there and I just, that moment, Lord using me. Me? You know all the stuff you know, and you're still using me to
Mm.
reach this guy. Blew my mind, bro. Blew my mind. And in that moment, I was cool. I didn't show the, oh, he's got a light bulb moment. I didn't even show it at that point. I know I didn't because I saw the recording recently. But but I just couldn't believe it, man. It was just it was such a it was a gift to me, bro, to know that the Lord was using me for something.
Have you ever had a moment where a guest has silenced you? Or
Yeah, you pro
maybe one of the guys on a Saturday, right? One of the team, and you're just like, oh, I don't know if I've got anything left. Like,
yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, I've had a few of those. I can't recall them all, but I mean, in a recent one-on-one with our guy Prince, which that's going to come out soon. You got it. Oh, bro, that was insane. Thank you for that introduction. Um, yeah, man. When I found out that dude was gangbanging at 11, I and I'm from L. I grew up in LA, bro. We invented gangs. You know what I'm saying? So when he threw that down and a couple of different things, man, I just could not. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And again, here we are having a conversation about this man and what he's been through in his life. And I'm thinking to myself, man, Lord, you got to be using this. I know you're going to use this. I know you're going to do it. You know, sometimes I think about that alone, waiting patiently, of course, for those days to come, right? But just knowing, I sit there in awe and I know it's going to be used.
another word you've used originally in your podcast was the word undeniable.
Mm,
It's
mm,
close to truth, but it's got all sorts of other like different versions, a pursuit of something, an excellence about it, maybe. What's the one thing you wish everybody knew about being undeniable? I mean, he is undeniable, but there's how do we emulate him and become as close to undeniable ourselves? What's the thing that you wish people knew?
I wish they could marry those two tracks together and come to the conclusion that with him you will have undeniable peace. With him you will be undeniable, right? Sometimes when you say that, it's that word, like you said, it can be used in different sectors and verticals, right? I think many people take that word and don't use it enough, honestly. Um, but they kind of so a lot of times that goes into the business space, I think. Um, and I wish that more people could have the confidence to recognize that with Christ in their hearts, they will become undeniable. You know what I mean? Like, and it may not look the same as you think it should have previously. You know what I mean? People, you know this, bro, better than anybody. You're a coach for a long time. You've seen a lot. Um, but many times, most times, I would say that many people equate success to, money and riches and things and cars and houses and whatever. I mean, but in my opinion, undeniable success, that's when you have undeniable peace, bro.
Mm.
Nothing tops it.
Talk to me for a second about belief in God. Um, and I want us to play see where we go to with this because I'm not too sure, but it strikes me that people are willing to believe in the tooth fairy,
Mm,
Father Christmas. They're willing to believe in global warming, whether it's true or
mm,
not. They're willing to believe in one politician over another politician. They're even willing to believe in money, which really is a series of false digits that a government dictates what they really mean. I mean, they're not linked to anything, right? And so they're willing to hold and fight for all of those beliefs. And yet, God and Jesus seem a step too far for them. Like,
hmm
the tooth fairy is fine, but Jesus is mythical. I'm like, well, how do people start to square that circle for themselves? Or maybe how did you square it for yourself? How did you square that circle for you? I'll happily share my story, but
mm.
how did you square it for you?
You know, I think I think ironically enough, everything you just spoke of after I spoke to you about peace, everything else you just spoke of has a result of chaos.
Mm.
Okay? Much of the time it is chaos in your mind, because I can't believe this politician I love did this. I can't believe people are polluting the oceans. I can't believe this. Like it is a constant state of mental strife, i.e. chaos. I don't have that anymore. I don't have that. So I think it still goes to peace, man. I still think it goes to finding that undeniable peace. And at some point or another, people are going to run out of road, man. They're going to run out of road, and it may take them a week, it may take them 40 years. I don't know, but they're going to eventually run out of road and find Jesus at the end of the road, bro, as the only path to peace, the only path to God, the only path to eternity, the only path to fulfillment, the only path to purpose, real purpose, the purpose within, if you will. He's at the end of the road, bro. He's sitting there with his arms open, waiting. All right, well, this guy's going to still fret about global warming, of which I am in control of, says Jesus. This guy, you guys are going to still fret about this and that and the other. I'm still here waiting. I'm not going anywhere. I'll give you these hints along the road, trying to point you onto the different road. Whether you choose to see them or not is up to you. But that's it.
It's remarkable for Jesus as a man who walked on planet Earth. There's actually history books documenting this, not the Bible, like other history
Yeah.
books. We we struggle as human beings to accept him over something that has never been seen on Earth in any physical, tangible way. Um, and the thing I often suggest to people is, would you, we happy celebrate. We say to like service people, thank you for your service, right? And then we hold up, your Green Berets or your Navy SEALs or the SAS as some mythical heroes, right? And especially the ones who died for their country, right?
Mm.
I'm forever grateful for those people who've done that.
Amen.
But I think most people struggle to go back and go, let me introduce you to the first one, the original Special Forces soldier who died for humanity. And I think that the moment you can understand that is Jesus Christ of Nazareth. And he did for us exactly what the SEAL does today, or the Green Beret, or any other service personnel. They die for a cause bigger than themselves. Suddenly he starts to become more understood, right? It's not, he's no longer the mythical guy, or the I never met him, because that's what a lot of people say. Well, why would he who's never met me die for me? Right. Well, I could take that same thing and go, why would the Navy SEAL go into battle for you, for your country, having never met you? Right. Same.
Mm.
And I wonder whether people need the chaos in their life to help them form an identity. And actually, they wouldn't know who they are if they found the peace. They're like fearful of that. Like, who am I really? And what that really says is they're not ready to let go of their ego yet and be a child of God.
Lots to unpack there, bro. Lots to
What
unpack
happened for
there.
you?
Well, if I can actually, okay, yeah, I'll tell you. Um, people people do not understand sin. Okay. I did not understand sin. And that I think that is a core of the of one of the biggest problems as to why people don't find Christ, don't believe in him, is because we don't understand sin. We have Rob, it's a strange picture in my head sometimes, bro. Because I have to try to picture things to try to rationalize them and to understand them. But when I say people don't understand sin, I mean that it's ingrained in the fabric of who we are, bro. You know what I mean? It is ingrained in the fabric. Therefore, it is natural in society. Anywhere you go, doesn't matter. And a part of that is, and then you have that as a foundation, and then you have all the layers on top of it, right? That the world places and that Satan places on us. And pick your vice, pick your tool, pick your app, pick your whatever. Um, the layers continue to pile on. And as the weight gets heavier of those vices and of those layers, sin gets repressed. Does that make sense? It doesn't get repressed. It gets unnoticed more. It gets discarded more. It's just a white lie. It's okay. It's just this. It's just that. You know what I mean? We make excuses for much of the sin. Oh, this person did this to me, so that's why I did this. You know what I mean? And so if you don't understand sin, excuse me, then you don't understand how serious it is for God and how it is, I mean, it is ultimately serious for him. I had to explain this to my brother the other day who chimed in on the podcast last Saturday. He's going back and forth with me, which I find a blessing to be a blessing because he thinks he's this, he's this, is this. And I had to tell him, I said, bro, I said, look, we're going on back on the Polo app and video. I said, bro, I say this with love, but you're not saved. I'm sorry. Sometimes you got to smack people in the face. You're not saved. Here is what it means to be saved, right? And he doesn't understand sin. He lives in Hollywood. Everything is like, whatever. God is like on the shelf somewhere else or in another country. You know what I mean? So once you understand the seriousness of sin, then you understand the holiness of a God that created all things, and then you learn about him in such a manner that, okay, well, this is really serious, right? It's why animals were sacrificed way back in the day before Jesus came, right? All like it was a natural thing to atone for their sins, and the rabbis and all, sacrificing lambs and things like that, until Jesus himself came to be sacrificed for us, right? People just don't get it, Rob, and I'm flailing, but they don't understand sin, therefore they don't understand their own sin, therefore they don't understand their ongoing need for repentance and atonement and why it matters. Does that make sense? Did I answer the question right?
Yes. Well, it was a very interesting answer. Something you just said sparked something inside of me is Jesus didn't just die for us, he actually died for God himself. And God was bloodthirsty, but the last drop of blood that God spilled was Jesus's.
Mm,
That was the ultimate pain that God had to experience in order to stop being bloodthirsty. Because if you go back through the Old Testament, there's slavery, there's animal sacrifices, like wiping planet, like resetting planet Earth with Noah,
mm,
flooding it. But I don't know how many people drowned when he flooded Earth, but I mean, it wouldn't have been pretty,
right, sure.
to save a few. And Jesus has more significance than we realize.
Yeah.
And I think that Jesus' sacrifice on the cross was to enable God himself to stop being sinful. Now, I'm not a theologist, I'm just telling you what I observe. Because
Well, I think
that,
yeah.
thou
Yeah, go ahead.
shalt not commit murder, thou shalt not whatever else, right? Words from God, and yet God was doing that in that time when those words were uttered. Jesus saved far more than just us. I think can I tell you the most remarkable thing that's happened for me since I've been saved is, I've been Mr. Performance Coach dude for a very long time. It would be fair to say, and I've done a lot of work on managing turmoil from my past, like trying to lose it, trying to delete it, trying to reframe it, from psychologists to all sorts of things. You know, but it would be fair to say, despite all of that I experienced, all of that stuff, 15 years worth of, from hypnotherapy to ayahuasca ceremonies to you name the 3D, 5D hippified places that I went to try and deal with, like dying at a point in time in my life, PTSD, guilt, all sorts of things. Since the day I've been saved, my brain has stopped thinking about yesterday. It
Mhm.
stopped worrying about yesterday, feeling guilt about yesterday. Like, I don't have much to be guilty of, right? But it's mostly like that intrinsic guilt. I shouldn't have done that. And I really know I shouldn't have upset that person like that or done this, like whatever else. For me, being saved, and it's only occurred to me the other week, is I'm like, I'm not worrying about yesterday anymore.
Mhm.
Like, it's not part of I'm grateful for yesterday. I can see a unique, weird series of jigsaw puzzle pieces that made no sense at all until I come to now and I see all of that clutter coming together to have taught me the things I needed to learn, in order to go and do what I do next. And I think people are trying so hard to set themselves free from a past that they dislike, when actually they don't have to try hard. They just have to accept Jesus. And I wonder what it would take for people to accept the fact that we don't have to outmuscle or ayahuasca ceremony or like taking magic mushrooms or whatever it may well be. We don't have to do any of that stuff in order to go and gain the peace we're looking for. We just have to find Jesus. And
Right.
that is as simple as saying, I believe.
Well, so Christ had to die. That's what was needed, okay, required by his Father to provide humanity with our get out of hell free card. Okay. Now, there is, as you well know, Rob, there is a path for every person to end up to the acceptance of Christ. They have this thing, this journey. They're here, and then whatever it entails for them, they got to go here, 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 and then finally they get to the end of the road, like we talked about. But if you don't understand sin and think it's not a big deal, then you don't get to the next level, which is the light bulb moment you talked about of holy smokes, I'm definitely a sinner. Therefore, I am displeasing to God. Therefore, I probably don't want to displease the creator of me and the universe. You know what I'm saying? There keeps a you have to keep going that way, but you do not, if you do not understand sin, you do not get to a place of humility to where you can submit yourselves to Christ. You said it right a while ago, brother. Ego is a killer of souls. It is a killer of souls because it is a self-placed barrier that people have in their hearts that will send them straight to the wrong eternity. And
We're
then
so
once they,
trapped in I and my, right? We're so trapped in I want. Look at my house, my car, my six pack, my whatever it may well be.
bro, let me ask you a question, bro, real quick. Why, why are people like that? Even this day and age, why are people like that? When you and I both know everybody's seeing it, most of us don't even care. We don't even care what you have, bro. Like, I don't care that you rented the Ferrari for the day to shoot a couple of videos and took it back. I don't care. We know it ain't yours. I don't care. Right? Why do people still do this?
Ultimately, it's a greed transaction. It's trying to shortcut a process, right, from A to B. That's what it really is. And it's trying to impress somebody with a dreamlike image that person on the other side of the dream who views it, let's say on Instagram,
Sure.
can in their lifetime have that dreamlike thing, right? Which, in honesty, within their lifetime, they 100% can do, even if George doesn't drive a Ferrari, who's trying to market the fact that I'm the guy who drives the Ferrari, right? We could all have Ferrari. In fact, God, I'm going to say now, God wants us to have a Ferrari, right? God wants us to have a yacht. He wants us to fly in private jets. He doesn't want people who. Here's the interesting thing, right? Most of the people who have those things do not believe in God,
That's
right?
for sure.
If everything is his, that means he's a displeased God because there's a whole bunch of his children who don't believe in him, using his resources for things that go against his will often. And if I was a father, I am a father, I'd want my kids to have that stuff because I know that they'd respect it, they'd look after it, they'd enjoy it, they'd give the credibility for owning it or getting the opportunity to use it to where it actually sits, which is him, as opposed to their own like muscle power, should we say, or
Efforts,
intellect
yeah.
or ego. It's really interesting because there's two bits of this, right? So Jesus says we've got to meet people where they're at. And so if we want to walk a discipleship journey with a people who have a dream of, I don't know, driving a sports car of some sort, right? Or a supercar, then we can go and get a supercar and drive around in it as long as we do it, it's not hired, it's actually ours, right? We're actually being authentic and credible with it. Like, I worked hard, did this. I can help you work hard and do this. Here's this, right? We can meet people where they're at with it. And I think then it's a really, really valuable tool. But I think the fake it to make it is against his will, right? Because it's not genuine, it's not real, it's not,
Sure, it's a
it's,
lie.
it's a lie. Yeah. Um, but I do think that God wants his children to be able to have possessions where they give how do we put it? They give the thanks to where it actually came from, which is him, as opposed to their own muscle. But can I share an observation with you? Because I'm supposed to be asking you questions, but now you know me, I'm on a pedestal for a second. If I was to ask you about your dreams or your dreamlike goals, would it be fair to say for you, Brad, and for other people listening to this, that in order for you to have them, actually a miracle of some sort somewhere is required? Would that be a fair thing to say?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think that's true for anybody, right? It might be that you want the ultimate physique. You might want for almost everything we want in the time frame we want it in. There's a miracle required in order to achieve it. Well, then I want to go and ask, like, who's the giver of miracles?
The only one who can.
And so, if you want what you want and you want to achieve it how you want to achieve it, Jesus is the way. He is the miracle worker. You know, I've had several Jesus moments in the past couple of weeks, and I want to share two specifically. One was around money a couple of Fridays ago, and I haven't actually shared this publicly yet, so this will be the first time. I've been owed a lot of money by a lot of people for quite a long time, and you know, January economically in South Africa is not the best of months, and I'm looking at my finances to pay the 12 staff I pay every month, the bills, the kids' school fees for the year are due this month. For the year, it's like it's everything now. And I'm looking at the finances and I'm going, how can I be doing everything right in business that I know to be right, and yet the economics still look like that? Like they're not
Hmm.
pretty. Like there's Lord, what am I missing?
Hmm.
And I'm sat at this desk praying, what am I missing? Because I have, in sales meetings, I have turned away customers in the past month who would have paid me quite a lot of money, but I know in my heart I'd be taking their money and I actually can't solve their problems. So I've turned them away, right?
Mm.
Because I know, and I said to them, look, if any coach promises you that they can do this for you, they are literally taking your money and lying to you, right? I've done this for 26 years. I'm one of the best. I can honestly tell you there isn't a person on earth who can solve this. If you pray, you stand a good chance of having this being solved, but it won't be through human intervention, right? Don't give your money to anybody. I won't take your money for this. And so I've done everything right. Like I've done all of the sales meetings, all of the marketing, all of the everything, and still it looks like this. Why? Like, Lord, what do I need to know? Is it me? Like, what do you need me to learn? And then I come off a call with Bobby, and somebody who owes me quite a lot of money phones me at 5:30 on a Friday evening and says, I'm sorry, which one of your three business bank accounts can I pay the money into? And it arrives within 24 hours, completely out of the blue, right? I haven't even chased that person for money for 4 weeks, right? It's not that I've written off the debt. I was just waiting to the end of January to send the statement out,
Yeah.
right? Out of the blue. You know, we launched the Kingdompreneur Mastermind in a couple of weeks' time. And I've got a group of kick-ass guys joining that mastermind, business owners, right? I mean,
Hmm.
really, really kick-ass guys. But as I look at the list, I don't have kick-ass girls.
Mm.
I don't have, in fact,
Mm.
and so I just, who do you speak to? Ask God. I'm like, Lord, like, where do I find these multi-million-dollar females from? The kick-ass ones. Who want to do this and they want to do it with you, God? Like, they don't just want to grow business, they want to do kingdom business. Like, where do I find them from? And I stopped praying. Within 10 minutes, I got a referral of one of those such females. And the end of that day, one of my clients who's a billionaire called me and said, why haven't you offered me this? I want it.
Mm.
Like the miracles we want are at the other side of a relationship with Christ. And I wonder, like, Brad, talk to me about your journey with Jesus over the past couple of years. I'm really curious about it because when I first met you, you were struggling to launch or get profitable a tech venture that then took you to a place of going, I can't sustain this anymore, and moving to insurance. And now you're doing something completely different. In fact, your insurance book isn't yours anymore, I don't think, and it's like you've but it's been one of the most remarkable 24-month journeys with God that I've ever seen.
Mm.
What did it take to get you started on that journey?
So if I can offer some context to what you said, because people will, it'll hit heavier. Um, Yes, you're right. I was far from profit, but as I was definitely struggling to get a tech venture off the ground. And what people don't know is that I was struggling with it for 13 years from inception to finally I might have an app almost built and blah blah blah. Um, that's a long time, dude. That's a long time. And I fully expect people to listen to this or watch this and say, what an idiot. You didn't know after 3 years, bro, that this is going to work out. But as you said, Rob, I wanted the thing because, and the truth is, man, when I was thinking about the things I wanted with this venture, really, it wasn't the private plane. It wasn't the My brother wanted that, my other brother, but it wasn't the private plane. It wasn't the fat bank account. It wasn't all the things. It really was rooted in an authentic heart for small, giving them a way, man. Like, and again, I won't go deep into it, but it was going to really simplify marketing for a small business owner, a small to mid-sized business owner. Um, you know all too well how much I love social media. And how much sarcasm, guys. I I detest it. I think it is absolutely a net negative to society, um, and all those things. But I wanted to give business owners a much easier way to market their companies and get more customers. So anyway, 13 years later, um, we've moved to Florida at this point, and we're struggling, bro. Like the wife and I, we're struggling. We have to figure something out. I mean, her consulting business, she only took a couple clients, but that was kind of dwindling down now. She was not doing great. She's fine. I mean, obviously health-wise and everything, but it's starting to weigh on her. Um, so the walls were kind of caving in, if you will. And I knew as the man of the house that I had to do something. I didn't know what that was going to be or how it was going to come to be, but God puts people in our lives many times as opportunities if we choose
Mm.
to see them. So I was going to a gym down the road for a while, and I was working there at the time to make some extra money. And there was this guy that would come into the gym all the time in the mornings with his wife. And I just got to know him. I got to know a lot of the people there, and he and I would talk all the time. And then I found out that he was an entrepreneur, you know. He was very successful in insurance. He sold his agency, etc. And he kind of looks at me. He's like, "Man, after getting to know me a little bit, he goes, I think you'd be good in insurance." I was like, "Oh, okay, thanks." Kind of just shoving it out of the mind again. So we meet for coffee again, and we had gotten to a place where I kind of had his ear on potential funding for my venture, you know, because he's part of an investor group here locally in Florida and they invest in companies and all that good stuff. And then we reconvened after that at the gym, and he says, yeah, man, until I see user growth on the app, whatever, we can't really invest in it. I said, okay, I understand. Makes sense. And he's like, man, you'd be really good at insurance. So I said, okay, great. Thanks for the compliment. So the walls kept caving in, Rob, and at some point, God put this weight on me that I have to do something. And then he literally just popped it in my mind to go see this guy about insurance. He said, go do it. So I said, fine. So there was a kind of a culmination of things, right? Number one, I had to be ready to give up this thing that I've been killing myself for 13 years. It wasn't easy to do. At least I didn't think it was. But the truth is, it was very easy to do. And people aren't going to understand that because you put your sweat, your soul. I've recruited so many people to help me build the app and blah, blah, blah. I did all this work for nothing, I thought. And so I go see him about insurance. We talk about it. And then I said, hey, let's meet for coffee. So we do that, and then I sit down and say, "Tell me about this insurance thing." And it kind of went from there. So got licensed, got to insurance, did for a guy who had no training whatsoever. And I killed it, man. I killed it in a very short period of time. I got innovative. I got, it seems as though people get on the phone with me and trust me very quickly. I had all the things going, man. And by the grace of God, I was given that opportunity. I had to work hard. I had to kill it. I had to hit it. Um, and we struggled for months after that, still. But then things started getting better. Things started getting better. I started making more money, et cetera, et cetera. So after that, man, it was strange how it came about, and I can't even tell you how it came about, to be honest with you, bro. But after, he kept getting to know me a little bit as an insurance agent and saw my drive and saw the things and getting to know my background with the failed venture that I had. It hit him one day, I guess, or God or the Holy Spirit just said that he needs to present me with a different opportunity. I don't know. But he did. He says, "Man, I have this tech company. I got two software engineers. You clearly know what you're doing, right? You clearly understand tech. You know what you're doing. I think I need you over here. You don't need to do insurance anymore." What? So there you have it. Now I'm the head of tech and development for that company, and I manage um, six software engineers, and we build cool stuff for the insurance agency and for other companies that this guy owns. I mean, we're going to be debt free probably in 6, 8 months. Um, because he bought my book of business. He wanted to keep it in the agency. And so we're being very smart about it, paying off debt and doing all the things. Man, it's weird that you say that because I don't see that. I don't see this 50,000 foot view of a miraculous journey over 2 years. I don't know. Maybe that's because I was in it, but I don't see it like you do. But thinking about it now, it's like, man, God had his hand in a few different things. There were quite a few little miracles along the way that got me here. Because I mean, think about it. If I would have moved to Florida 4 months later, I wouldn't have met this guy at the gym because he wasn't there anymore after a few months, and so on. So Rob, I mean, I guess I'm not trying to play host here, but I mean, what did you see that was so miraculous in that journey?
I've seen somebody who's got closer to God and has
Hmm.
worked and has not just that, but has worked at getting closer to God over the last, well, I've known you 2 to 3 years now, and maybe has stopped being frustrated with God and actually just like we spoke about the other day, putting his anger and frustration to one side more. And what I've seen is the acceleration as you've got closer to God, the acceleration on your path has become more spectacular.
I could see that.
Like 12 months ago, pretty much to the week, we were talking about how do you how do you still sell ethically home insurance in an industry that most people don't sell ethically, right? In Florida. Like how do you compete when somebody will give a customer, I don't know, insurance for a 3-bed house when they've got a 4-bed house just to get the premium competitive, even though they're not actually covered in the event of a claim, right? And how do you compete and like do well there? And here we are 12 months later, and you're building cool apps and cool tech and doing don't not even doing insurance. I mean, you're still working with insurance, but you don't have your own book anymore or anything like that, and you're going to be debt free. And what a remarkable testimony to a pursuit of getting closer to God.
Submission will give you peace. That's what people miss. Submission will give you peace.
You know, we don't have to be as strong as we think we are, as we think we do. Ultimately, he's far stronger.
Sure.
I think we've got to be in a space where we let him actually do some heavy lifting for us, as opposed to trying to, you said submission, as opposed to
So
trying to control, yeah, as opposed to trying to control everything.
that's right. That's right. That is if that is one of the most powerful takeaways from this recording is that submission will give you peace. Like
Mm.
ponder on that a little bit. Dive deep into that and then act
Mm.
on it.
You know, God's given us a weird and wonderful jigsaw puzzle of life, right? There's from my perspective, for me personally, I left school age 16, and there's no way that the boy who left school at 16 should be doing what I do today at 49, right? It makes no sense. I mean,
Mm.
or it made no sense as I was going through it. And now, as I look backwards, hindsight, actually, I'm like, oh, I see. I do that. Like these bits come together.
Yep.
I'm really curious with focus loop or the insurance work. What's the money can't buy learning that came out of one or both of those things that you really wish that people knew?
You know, I would have to say that, boy, that's a tough question, Rob. I think, whew, stumping me, bro. Oh my gosh. I would say one of the most important things that you can take away from that is to chase the value you can provide to others, not your own gain. Lead with that. Because if we're all human beings, man. You've done it, I've done it, everybody else has done it. If they say they haven't done it, they're lying to you. Dreaming of this business they're going to start and how successful it's going to be and all the money they're going to make and all the things they're going to have and all the this and all of that, right? We've all done that, some more than others. But my personal opinion is that if you lead with what you can do for others, then ways to achieve that will appear faster. If that makes any sense.
You know, I often think if you put others above yourself, God's gravity will let you be the recipient of the byproduct of doing good for them. And that byproduct could be money, love, food, care, all sorts of things. But there's like a gravity of drop down that happens. But I think if we put ourselves above others, I think we try and drag everything against God's will, right? It's like, why push the stone up the hill when God just wants it to roll down the hill? And you're trying to work against gravity, against the flow.
Well, I mean, when you put yourself above others, that's the definition of ego.
You know, in business, people often have this pursuit of wanting to be known, right? I want to be the next
Oh yeah.
Steve Jobs or the next whatever. You know, most of those people who are known lived pretty miserable, unhappy lives.
Yes.
Some of the biggest businesses out there, most successful, we don't actually know who started them. I mean, sure, if you went and Googled it and ChatGPT, right? Like,
Right.
but
We
like,
know the face they
but
put
like,
in front of us. Yes.
yeah, but we don't know who started. Like, if you went and Googled these things, of course, you'll find the answer out. But who founded Coca-Cola?
Mm.
I don't know. Like, who founded Boeing? Don't know.
Mm.
Airbus? Don't know. You know, sure, there's a few that we do know. It strikes me Greg Glassman sold CrossFit a few years ago for $500 million, right? The
Mm.
world's largest fitness movement, right? But nobody really knew who Greg Glassman was. Even his own premiere, the CrossFit Games, you know, on TV and all that sort of stuff, he wasn't on TV at that event. In fact, sometimes he didn't even go.
I don't blame him.
He built a business that was about the people who did CrossFit. It was about them. It wasn't about him.
That's right.
Now, I'm not going to tell you that he was the happiest guy on earth because I don't think he was. But I think the pursuit of being known is actually the pursuit of making yourself unhappy.
Yeah.
And there's a tension there, right? Because I'm not saying we should go and hide. I'm not saying we should go and hide. I, I want us to wander this conversation on. Um, if you could have a cup of coffee with Jesus,
Mm.
I'm going to actually sit in a coffee shop across the table from him. You have whatever you want, flat whites. He orders Americano. Don't really know what it is. You're going to feel obliged to pay, of course. But what would you want to ask him?
I would, honestly, bro, I would, so I'm sorry. I think I would ask him, sorry to be a downer, guys, but I would ask him why my friend took his life. He was he was the first person I had the honor of calling a friend back in middle school and then all throughout until he was gone. Such a good man. Last thing that you would ever expect him to do. And I still to this day I can't think about him or talk about him without getting like this. I'm sorry, Rob. I know you didn't want to do that, but I it's probably the one thing in life I don't understand that I just can't wrap my head around. And so I would just want to know why. Because I miss him, man. It's been 25 years, man. 27 years, whatever. I mean, you would have loved him, bro. I don't know. I would ask him. I would want to know what happened with him.
Crazy how the things that we really want to ask him often come down to things that really isn't about things. It's about relationships, other people, It's about, I'd ask him, why me? Like, I don't feel worthy for doing what I do. Why me? I'd also ask him, you know, when I spent some time with my dad in Zambia, Brad, in November, we're trapped in a car with each other, 4x4ing for 2.5 weeks. Can't
Yeah.
help but not talk about Jesus, right? That's like, it's pretty
Right.
hard. And my dad went to church or whatever else as a kid, but throughout my entire childhood and life up until now, God's not been a conversation topic in any way, shape, or form. My dad would never tell anybody not to believe, but he'd never say, but he'd also never choose to step in that direction. And when we were on the Yukon canoeing with each other in 2024, he said, "So, why God? Why Jesus? Why now?" And I gave him a bit of an answer, but I left feeling like I hadn't done the answer justice, if that makes any sense. I
Sure.
waffled.
Yep.
And we're in the car, and my dad's 78, and talking about Jesus. And my dad said to me, I think I believe in Jesus, I just don't know how.
That's powerful.
And yet again, I found myself and I waffled. And I think I'd want to ask Jesus, what's the how my dad needs to know how to believe in you? Like, he's 78, right? He's got skin cancer. The day will come when he leaves us in human form.
Mm.
And what's that look like? Because I don't feel equipped.
Hmm.
Brad, going back to what your answer was, and maybe even my answer is, maybe we don't need to be equipped. Maybe we don't need to know why.
Yeah. Yeah. There's two things to that. You said, I think in those moments that you spoke of with your father, I think, I think in that instant we feel like we are on a stage and that we have to get our lines right, right? Or we're going to say the wrong thing and he's not going to convert, or he's not going to this and he's not going to that, and then we quickly forget that that conversion is not our job, and number two, it's lean on the Holy Spirit, right? Like I've done it, we've all done it, right? Said the wrong things, whatever. Hopefully didn't screw it up too bad. But that's the one thing that I think I'm getting better at. I'm trying to get better at is to rely on this crazy advantage of a gift that we have in the Holy Spirit, bro. In every situation, in every facet, in every, you know what I mean? We can really just, like you said, surrender, submit. Give me the words, Lord, to I was praying that before I got on this show, man. Be with us, help what we talk about reach people in a way that points them towards you, man. You know? I think we just need, I think it isn't it submission, brother. It's submission. Like in the conversation, like maybe next time you have that opportunity with your father, it's a quick God help me, Jesus help me. He'll know what you mean, right? He knows what you mean before you even ask. He'll know. So I think it's you're filtering me, man, in this conversation, like funneling me into submission is the key. Because if you have faith, you should be able to submit.
Chris Valentin from the Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry, that's had a bit of a slap in the face over the past couple of weeks from
Mm.
all sorts of reasons. But putting that to one side, he says that faith is spelt risky, risk, and that the risky part of it is that to do faith, those who haven't fully met God yet will struggle to understand and accept the actions and decisions that you're making.
But
And that
sure, I mean, another part of spiritual maturity, for me anyway, is that I've had to come to internal reconciliation with the fact that I won't understand everything and be okay with it, right? People, people, this need for understanding removes their faith, bro. And it puts that barrier that we talked about earlier in front of them, between them and the Lord and what He has for them. We're saying the same things in different ways. It's amazing how many times we've circled back to these things: removal of ego, submission, trust, faith, removing barriers, right? I mean, that's I just it's noticed that we've said the same thing numerous times in different ways, and hopefully maybe we had to, because one of those ways will reach somebody. I hope.
it wouldn't, if you go and look at the essence of what Jesus taught in the New Testament, he really taught very little, but he taught it very much.
Hmm.
Um,
Sure.
the
Yeah.
quantity of the quantity of parables that just say the same thing in a different way to the previous parable. Um, the parable of the sower and the parable of talents really is all about stewarding.
Mhm.
The sower is about stewarding your ground so you can sow. The parable of
Yeah.
talents is about sow is stewarding. It's all really about stewarding, right? Be a good steward. Look after the kingdom.
Mhm.
Um, we're, we're wandering towards what do you think the future looks like for Brad Austin?
I'll share my evil plan with you that I I shared with Gina last night. Um, and I'm in a time of discernment here in trying to determine whether this is what he wants me to do or not. But as you know, Rob, I got a couple of little side projects that I'm working on, that trying to get going a little bit. And once I once I once we can just get them out there, my goal is to I'm going to hire somebody that's going to help me get on a bunch of different shows, podcasts, and have awesome conversations like this, you know, with people who I know are not believers, right? They have big shows and they talk about business and entrepreneurship and blah blah blah. Um, and that'll be fun, I guess, to an extent, but um if God opens the door for me to do this and wants me to do this, then God willing, I get on some of those shows, have fun conversations, but then also plant seeds because those are God's children too, and they're on the wrong road. And God willing, the Holy Spirit will help me do that with class um and finesse in such a manner that maybe just plants a seed and gets them asking more questions or whatever. The reason I say that, man, is because I think I think God gives us different vehicles and paths for different reasons, right? Um, I'll be honest with you. I mean, this little thing I'm doing on the side, not our little project, but a different one that you know about. I mean, it's cool, it's exciting, but I find myself not having that like success desire for it. Is that strange? I find that I'm looking at it as a vehicle of sorts for whatever purpose that I may not even be aware of yet. If that makes any sense. Right? You have Kingdompreneur, you have a purpose for that. I remember you brought it. I don't know if I'm the first person you talked to about it, but I know before you ever started it, we talked about it, right?
Yours was
And
the first podcast I was interviewed on about it. Yeah, very first.
and I mean, and it was clear you had a why, right? You had been given a path and a purpose and strictly to help Christian business owners and entrepreneurs. It's very specific, right? And to give him the glory in the process. And for those people who make it with you to do the same, right? It's not about the success you're going to achieve. It's about shining the light on how you achieved it. That's your purpose. That is a seed, man. That is hopefully a large seed that the world can see, that they'll be
Mhm.
able to see, right? And that's your purpose for it. It's not for your success, right? So I think that's how I'm looking at it. And right or wrong, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what entrepreneur on LinkedIn says that I should do and how I should do it. He doesn't understand my purpose. And that's okay. Maybe I can share it with him on his show. I hope.
That's very cool. So I want to wrap us up, and I've got a few questions to do so. And
Sure.
one of them was left from the previous person I interviewed. In fact, you know her, she's Elise. She's one of our Kingdompreneur
Yeah, I
clients.
like her. I
And
like her. We've talked. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. She says, and she didn't know who she's leaving this for. She said, if God asked you to give it all up tomorrow and start again, would you do it?
Yes. No hesitation because I understand that I don't understand, and that's okay. I understand that he sees what I can't see. And if he's telling me to give it all up, it is for a specific reason. And I think it is
Mm.
my obligation to be obedient to find out what that is for whatever reason. That's why there was no hesitation.
Look, you're speaking to the guy who did give up a bunch of businesses and then set up what just does one business now. There's yeah.
Yeah, but
Um,
Rob, look at even though you're looking at the books, man, you're saying I don't know. I guarantee you, you have more peace with what you're doing now on a daily basis, don't you?
100%, thousands of percent.
And
Yeah.
what's that worth to you,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
My life is so much harder and so much easier at exactly the same time. It's
That's right.
it's easier because I'm with him the entire time, and that's just easier. The hard thing is, like, I had an investor speak to me the other week wanting to invest in Kingdompreneur.
Hmm.
This investor was like, I want to invest in Kingdompreneur. I can see the legs, but we're going to do it like this, this, and this, and we'll make all this, and we'll grow like that, like blah, 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 blah. And there's quite a lot of money on the table, right?
Hmm.
Quite a lot of money. And I was like, thank you very much, but I don't want to do it that way. It just
That's right.
doesn't feel like how he wants me to do it.
That's right.
And I fully understand that what I'm saying is, in worldly money terms, leaving a lot of money for Rob Yates on the table potentially. I
Yep.
fully understand that,
Yep.
but it just doesn't feel like every time I pray on this, it says, don't do it like that.
100%. 100%.
So
I think it's
I
funny that
think
he was saying that, oh, we're going to do it this way. We're going to do it this way. We're going to do it this way. As if, I mean, if I'm in your shoes, I'm sitting there like you were, like, bro, how easy are you making it for me to say no?
the thing is that, and this is for anybody out there, if you ever think that the size of your bank balance or the amount of money you have is more important than your ability to listen and follow God, you have just lost.
That's right. Because you're going to lose that peace that comes with it. You will.
That's it.
100%.
Because the reason why he's attracted to Kingdompreneur is what Kingdompreneur's done in the last 14, 15 months. And Brad, you came to the very first Kingdompreneur session that was an echo
Mm,
chamber of a few of us. To now, we're getting 50 people sometimes turn up to a coaching session, right? And it's just grown. We've got all of this staff team now that it's grown by. He's impressed by that growth, but doesn't understand that that growth is God. It's not Rob. And the future growth will be God, not Rob. And
hmm
and so his way really isn't that important. Like, not, I don't mean God, like the investor's way really isn't that important.
Right.
Neither is his money.
100%.
Like, I haven't
100%.
needed his money till now. I'm not going to need it in the future. So what would your question be for our next guest, Brett?
Hmm. I guess the question I would ask the next person is, what are the things in your life that you can identify that's blocking your peace?
Cool. So I like to finish the end of an episode, and if it's okay, I'd like to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I'd like you to know that the future I see you having is surprisingly for you larger than you could ever measure it to be. And I don't know how, but I think that focus loop was a test run for something and something that needed to be experienced for something so big. You'll probably tell me you're not qualified for it.
Hmm.
But I also know that that big won't bring the heaviness and weight of stress and anxiousness. It'll sort of happen by accident or by God. And I can't tell you, but it's Salesforce big.
Yeah, I don't see how that's going to happen. So
And
maybe you see something I don't, but
I can't
I
either.
agree with you. I agree with
I
you as
can't
far
either.
as
But I want you to know that
yeah.
that's, if you were to ask me what Brad Austin's life looks like in the future, it's Salesforce big. Not as an employee, as the guy who
Wow.
sets it up and scales it to be like that.
Well, I
But
guess I
not
need
in that
to
usual,
go
yeah.
ahead, sir.
What I want
Go
you to
ahead.
know is it's not in that usual tech startup, high stress, high anxiousness,
Yeah.
high pressure way. It's steered by God, and everything for you and Gina just feels like the next right, easy, sensible step to make.
You know, Rob, I think as you say that, I think if that's going to happen, I think you're absolutely right because I'm not going to live like that. You know what I mean? I'm not going to put me or my wife in that kind of stress and anxiety, and they're not doing it. So I think it's very intriguing and very interesting that you say that, um, because that's fully in alignment with how I'm doing these side projects. Heck, I'm calling them side projects. So I think it's very intriguing. I think it's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Every Coca-Cola was a side project. It's now
Mm,
the one of the world's largest beverage company. Um, how many soap, pie, I don't know, things was somebody's like the flying was the Wright brothers side project in their bicycle shop. There's more significance in the side project than any one of us would ever realize.
makes sense.
Brad Austin, thank you. I can't wait to see what comes next.
I appreciate the time, brother. It's been such a pleasure as always. God bless you.
God bless.